Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 376, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Friday, May 30th, 2025. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the show. I hope you have an amazing weekend. If you have the need to find some plans, go to holycitycenter.com/calendar, and you can find out what's going on around town this weekend and beyond. Not a whole lot going on in my world. Been fairly quiet. I will say, I have been pretty busy with work stuff. I'm recording this, quote unquote, on the go. I'm just not in front of my normal microphone. So the audio quality might be a little different than normal, but usually even recording in this manner turns out to be okay. We've got a few stories to get you updated on, but first, the second story, I'm going to attach a trigger, content warning, whatever you want to call it. Just be advised that during that second story, there'll be discussions of sexual violence, which, obviously could be distressing or triggering for some listeners. So listener discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is affected by domestic and or sexual violence, please reach out to local support services, or you can contact a crisis helpline for assistance. For instance, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. That number is also going to be in the show notes, as well as some more information. So just be advised. That second story is going to involve some discussions of that. So just wanted to give a heads up to listeners who, may find that type of content distressing or triggering. But now that we've gotten that done, let's get into the first story. So Charleston City Council has unanimously passed the first reading of a measure that would limit when juveniles can be out and about without a parent along the King Street corridor. This is an update story I had mentioned in a previous podcast. City Council this week voted on it. It's not a complete done deal yet. But it took a major step, especially with all members agreeing to pass that first reading. So this proposed curfew would bar people who are under the age of 18 from being on King Street from Carolina to Broad Streets, and Market Street south of King Street, and East Bay Street from Market to Broad Streets between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. Thursdays through Sundays. I know it's a little difficult to follow, but the link in the show notes, you can see this, and then you can, kind of tell on a map where that area would be. So yes, this would be from Thursdays to Sundays. According to the ordinance that was first kind of proposed and really pushed by Charleston Police Chief Cheeto Walker, any minors that violate the curfew will be asked to leave the area by a police officer. If needed, a parent or guardian will be contacted to pick them up. So this was one of the big things I was curious about when this first came up, is would there be some sort of punishment? What would that punishment be? And it appears there really isn't a punishment per se when you think of like breaking a law or, whatever. Just being asked to leave or having a parent pick them up seems like two perfectly reasonable things if you're going to implement a curfew. And there are several exceptions to that curfew, which would include kids who are working or attending school, church, or public activities. Another exception is for kids exercising their First Amendment rights, so if they're protesting in some manner. This whole ordinance does face another review. It'll be, and it's going to be Charleston City Council again, and it'll be on June 17th. If they go ahead and pass it, then it will become law, and this will all go into effect. I'll certainly keep you updated as we move forward. All right, so as I mentioned at the top, this is the story that's going to have some discussion about sexual violence, so just keep that a heads up. You can skip ahead if you need to. But Representative Nancy Mace teased that she had some sort of major announcement on Thursday. I, like a lot of other people, assumed maybe she was going to be talking about her run for governor. That was not the case. She has not made that announcement. Instead, she talked about a lawsuit that was filed. It's from an unidentified woman, and she is suing 3 Charleston-area businessmen, alleging one of them sexually assaulted her while she was unconscious, and the others watched and filmed. She also claims that she only learned about this happening after Representative Mace found a video of the alleged incident. So the men that are accused in this May 29th complaint that was filed in Charleston County are Patrick Bryant, John Osborne, and Eric Bowman. They are 3 of the 4 men that Mace herself had named in that, infamous now February 10th speech on the House floor, during which she detailed how she had accidentally found evidence of, quote, rape, non-consensual photos and videos of women and underage girls, end quote. She also alleges to have found pictures and videos of herself. Now, Patrick Bryant, of course, you may remember, is Mace's ex-fiance. And again, this is all tied to that floor speech. And for the record, all four men have publicly denied all these allegations. And there's some lawsuits in the works, as we've talked about before, about defamation and so forth. So we'll see how it all plays out. So Mace read parts of this complaint during a Thursday afternoon press conference on Daniel Island. The woman who filed the complaint, she was reportedly 23 years old at the time of the incident, and she was actually one of the victims that was referenced during Mace's floor speech. So this is, this all lines up with what she had said. She had also recently shown some of the photos on the House floor. They were, edited, so they weren't graphic or anything. But one of the photos showed this woman lying on the couch, and she was covered by pillows. And we'll get to that part in a moment. So the woman is referred to as Jane Doe in her complaint. And she claims that she was working for one of Bryant's companies back in 2018 when she went out drinking with a friend and eventually met up with the defendants before ending the night at Bowman Sullivan's Island home. The complaint claims that Doe was very intoxicated and barely able to walk or talk, and she actually fell into the pool at one point. She then allegedly went back into the house on her own, took off her clothes, and then, in her words, passed out on the couch. She was nearly naked but covered with pillows, and that was one of the photos that Nancy Mace showed in a recent, she was in a hearing where she showed this information. So apparently this incident was caught on the home security camera, which is where that screenshot I just mentioned came from, in addition to the fact it was witnessed by one of the men's wives, who sent herself an email detailing what she had seen. This is according to the complaint. So certainly all of that, again, assuming everything's accurate, and this lines up with video evidence and so on and so forth, it certainly is lending credence to everything that Nancy Mace had said on that House floor speech. Again, doesn't mean everything is true, but this certainly adds to her side. If there is indeed this video still available, and one of the men's wives does end up coming forward, and that's the other side of this. Who are the witnesses? Are the witnesses actually going to testify? Are they going to change their story? So on and so forth. So certainly seems like there's a good amount of evidence that Doe is, this Jane Doe is claiming to have access to. In any event, Jane Doe says when she woke the next morning, she was told that she had fallen into the pool. No other details about the night were given to her. And she reportedly did not even know she had been assaulted until Mace told her in April of 2024, after Mace had found this video of her. The victim further claimed in the lawsuit that she now believes her drink may have been spiked earlier in the night. So after she had passed out, she alleged that while she was in this incapacitated state, Bowman and Bryant took non-consensual photos of her and then later filmed Osborne sexually assaulting her. So a lot of accusations, again, lines up with what Nancy Mace has previously said. There's some more details here. It's coming from a different person. There could be pictures and videos that are still available of this incident, as well as, like I said, a witness outside of the men themselves. So definitely a horrifying recounting of what allegedly occurred. And as I've said from the beginning, if any of these accusations against the men are true, they absolutely should be held accountable. So this is the latest update, and what is, I'm sure, going to be a long story that we'll be hearing about for months and months, if not years. But here, this is the latest update. Speaking of updates, I've got another one about that incident that happened on Sullivan's Island earlier this month. The man who is charged with attempting to murder multiple people in a Sullivan's Island hit and run is now facing additional charges nearly a month after that May 1st incident. The man, Justin Colin Adams, is 36 years old, and he's from Greenville. He has been charged with 3 counts of attempted murder and 1 count of first-degree assault and battery. Now he faces an additional 3 counts of assault and battery in the first degree. This is according to a newly released affidavit. The original incident, you may remember, as I said, back on May 1st, it started around 12:50 p.m. when Adams was riding in the backseat of his mother's car. He pulled out a knife on his mother and threatened to cut her. The mother said to police that she feared for her life, so she exited the car and ran away, while Adams then sped off towards the Sunrise Presbyterian Church on Sullivan's Island. Still traveling at a high rate of speed, Adams then reportedly drove into the playground, hit a 12-year-old, slammed into a teacher who was thrown over the hood and roof of the car, and then hit a 10-year-old who was then pinned under the vehicle when it came to a rest on a sidewalk. The car's airbags then deployed, and Adams fled the scene on foot to a nearby residence. This prompted a manhunt that I'm sure you all very much remember that lasted a few hours. He was found after he had ran into a boat lift and hid in that area until police ended up locating him with the assistance of a helicopter. So more charges in that very scary incident, and certainly seems warranted based on the evidence and reports, from eyewitnesses and everything. Obviously, this is another story we'll be hearing about for a while as we start moving towards court cases and things, and I'll be sure to keep you updated. And finally, we have a second person who is running against Lindsey Graham. First was a Democrat by the name of Lee Johnson. He had announced his candidacy a couple weeks ago, and now a name that may be familiar to you is Dr. Annie Andrews. She's a local pediatrician. You may remember she unsuccessfully ran against Representative Nancy Mace back in 2022, but she has announced that she's running against Lindsey Graham in 2026 for his Senate seat. So we now have two Democrats, which means there will be a Democratic primary unless one of them drops out beforehand. And I'm sure there may be others that announce their candidacy, as obviously we've still got a little ways to go. Dr. Andrews made the announcement via campaign video where she's, dressed in her, white, like doctor's coat, and she talks about all manner of things. Obviously, she talks about Senator Graham, who she said is completely and unequivocally full of shit, which, yeah, that sounds about right. She then followed that statement with a montage of clips showing Senator Graham flip-flopping on issues related to Donald Trump, saying, you remember back in 2016 when he was very adamant against Donald Trump's candidacy and then now has become, one of his most vocal supporters. So she showed a lot of clips from that. She also mentioned the concern about what Robert F. Kennedy is doing in terms of his whole Make America Healthy Again movement. As well as some of the things that Trump's doing in his administration. You can see the video if you want and the link in the show notes. You can also visit her campaign website, drannieandrews.com, and donate if you want. Read more about, what she said so far, about why she's running, and what she would aim to do if she did, in fact, defeat Graham. So, as I said, two candidates on the Democratic side. Still got a long way to go, but I'll be sure to keep you all posted. And that'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Lindsey Marie Collins, the producer extraordinaire with LMC Soundsystem. She produces each and every one of these episodes. Thank you to Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode. I'm stumbling over the end. Sometimes this happens. I appreciate anyone who stuck through to this point. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Like I said, holycitycenter.com/calendars, where you can find plans if you're searching for some. And, of course, the website is where you can find all the latest local news. I'll be back with you next week when it will be, shock, gasp, June already. But I'm already looking forward to it. Until then, good night and good luck.